I signed for them after the Euros, and after my first day's training, I was driving home. I was actually thinking, regretting it. What have I done? Like I walked into a circus. It's amazing, isn't it?
Lots to get into this morning. We're starting with Manchester United because they are hoping to secure up to 3 more signings before the end of the summer transfer window, and Borussia Dortmund's England forward Jadon Sancho remains their top target, according to the Manchester Evening News. Now, Real Madrid manager Zinedine Zidane's ability to overhaul his squad is reliant on Manchester United acting on their interest in 31-year-old Welsh forward Gareth Bale, according to Marca, and representatives of Porto's 27-year-old Brazilian left-back Alex Telles have flown to Manchester for talks with United. That is via a bola via Metro. So, lots to unpick there. Stephen and Shane, I want your take on this, both of your takes on this. Stephen, first off, what should Manchester United's top priorities be right now?
A left back. We're reading this news about Alex Telles, and I actually commentated on a couple of Porto games in Europe over the last couple of years, and he's definitely one of those players that stood out. He's still only 27, so he's a good age. I know people are kind of wondering, is he going to nudge maybe Luke Shaw, Brandon Williams out of the reckoning? I think Brandon Williams is Manchester United's best left back. I think he's a really, really solid, good player.
Right now?
Last season.
Like,
right now.
He's ready to take over from Shaw?
I think myself and Brian Kerr, I remember it stands out last season, did the game against Sheffield United. You might remember that match. It was 3-3. And United got absolutely savaged by Sheffield United in the first half. We're lucky probably to go in only 1-0 down at half time. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer changed his formation that day to a back three to reflect the opposition. And he played Phil Jones on the left of that back three, which turned out to be the key disaster area for Manchester United that afternoon. And Luke Shaw had a really torrid time. And I thought it was only for the fact that Phil Jones was playing inside him. He was absolutely torn apart on that side. But it wasn't his fault. As I said, it was definitely because Phil Jones was leaving too many gaps between the two players. And I thought Williams then responded really well, because you might remember he scored a goal in that game to get United back on track, and eventually they got the draw of it, even having gone in front from behind. And I just think it showed the character that Brandon Williams has, and I think that's something that Luke Shaw lacks. I've seen Luke Shaw in games just, not saying tools down, but I think when he's up against it, Luke Shaw isn't the kind of player that you want. He gets caught flat-footed. He gets caught out of position. He leaves the centre halves maybe stranded at times. And I think if it was me anyway, and I'm not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but I would have Brandon Williams as my number one left back and Luke Shaw as his backup. But if they can get this guy Alex Telles, he scored 11 goals last season for Porto, and he got 8 assists. It's not a bad tally for a left back. Now, granted, it is in the Portuguese league, and I don't want to seem kind of, looking down my nose at the Portuguese league. It's a good league, but it's not as good as the Premier League, Bundesliga, or La Liga. So you would have to factor that in. But a player at 27, if they can get a good deal for this Telles guy, and perhaps maybe get a good transfer fee for Luke Shaw, then maybe that's the way they should be looking at it.
Shane, what are you thinking if you're moving the pieces around on the chessboard that is Manchester United? What are you doing?
Yeah, it kind of gets complicated when you see lads like Chris Smalling and Marcus Rocco coming back from their loan deals and sitting in the front of the car, smiling coming into training. Marcus Rocco apparently training two times a day to really impress Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and lick up to the teacher a little bit. But I agree with Steve-O and Brandon Williams. Brandon is a fantastic footballer. Daniel Harris, I think, was speaking about Ethan Laird recently, that he's a young guy coming through, and he made a couple of Europa League appearances last season. And there's a lot of excitement about him in the United Academy. So I think United played Liverpool in an academy match, and this was a United Academy team that included Mason Greenwood, and they said that this Ethan Laird guy is just a notch above. So it's an interesting one, and Diet Up and Meccano's deal seems to have kind of died out a little bit. There's no more talk about him. So maybe the Porto deal with Telles is where United go, but I don't like seeing them linked with the likes of Gareth Bale. I mean, this is it gets a bit ridiculous. It's classic United transfer sagas. You see them linked with someone like Jadon Sancho, young, exciting talent, pretty expensive, but still someone who's going to improve United a lot. But then as that deal begins to die out, you kind of resort back to the likes of Gareth Bale. I don't know if that link is even serious. Could they afford his £600,000 a week wages? Who knows? I don't know what the golf courses are like in and around Manchester, but that link is a bit ridiculous. Maybe Spurs is more of a place where he might end up under Mourinho, but I think Sancho has to be the number one target, and I agree with Steve. Brandon Williams is excellent. Maybe a bit of competition for left back wouldn't be a bad thing.
Let's move on to Liverpool, because Aston Villa want to sign 20-year-old England youth international Rhian Brewster for £20 million, according to The Sun. Premier League clubs believe Brewster will be allowed to leave Liverpool this window, with Sheffield United and Crystal Palace also interested in the striker. There's no way, is there, potentially, that they let him go, given the future upshoot that this guy has and how glowingly everybody speaks about him?
Yeah, he's still only 20 years of age, and he went on loan to Swansea last season, scored 10 goals in 20 appearances, which is no mean feat for a young player in the Championship, finding his way. I tell you, if Troy Parrott could do something like that with Millwall, we'd be pretty happy as Irish fans. So I think he was sent out on loan by Jurgen Klopp, sent out to prove himself. I think he's done that. And if you look at the Liverpool forward line, obviously their main three strikers are Firmino, Mane and Salah. Now, really, if you're going to play a forward line of three players, you need to have three backup players as well. They have Minamino, who started to come good in pre-season for Liverpool. He's playing really well because he never really got a chance to shine last season. He kind of brought in halfway through the season, and it was hard for him to, I suppose, maybe slot into that team when it was purring like it was on their way to winning that title. And if you look at the backup players they have there, Origi, Minamino, and they kind of need a third player, I think, because like last season, they obviously lost Mane for a while to injury. They lost Firmino for a little while as well to injury. So I think having three backup forwards there isn't such a bad idea. So I think to sell Rhian Brewster, I don't think it would be a good idea. If they want to put him out on loan, maybe to... Then again, if they put him out on loan and there's talk of perhaps Sheffield United or Aston Villa, do you really want to loan him out to one of your rivals and perhaps have him... I know he's not going to play against Liverpool during the season if he does go out loan to a Premier League side, but you wouldn't really want him perhaps maybe making things awkward for you during the season. So I don't know. I don't think it would be such a bad idea to hold on to Rhian Brewster for Jurgen Klopp and perhaps maybe just to, give him a go this season. He did well at Swansea. He did what he was asked to do and perhaps deserves his chance at Anfield this season.
Just sticking with Liverpool then, and they're going to put both of these together actually, because they are basically very linked. So first of all, Wijnaldum's move to Barcelona is increasingly likely, according to reports in Spain. And then second of all, according to reports in Germany, Barcelona are now interested in bringing Bayern Munich's Thiago Alcantara, a target of Liverpool, back to the club. How do you see this little jigsaw working? Is it a domino effect, basically? Will Barcelona go for one or the other and Liverpool either keep Wijnaldum or they go for Thiago? Are we at that point?
Yeah, I when the Wijnaldum stuff was going on, I'm kind of wondering, what's the attraction for a player like him to leave the Premier League champions and a side that are going to be competing for the Premier League again this season and for the Champions League as well? And what is the attraction of going to Barcelona, a team that's in total disarray, to play for a manager like Ronald Koeman, who, he's hardly set the world alight. He did okay at Southampton, but coming in, inheriting a club that was really built by Pochettino at that stage. And he had a disaster at Everton. He did well in the Dutch league, obviously with Azzi and that kind of thing, but there's no real attraction to go and play for Barcelona, bar perhaps the money. If they're going to pay him give him a good paycheck for moving there. And then what's the other attraction? Well, it's playing alongside Lionel Messi, and for a while that was looking like that wasn't going to be an attraction because it looked like he was going to move out, but Messi staying. So perhaps the fact that you're going to play alongside Lionel Messi, you're going to get a good paycheck. That might be enough to lure Gini Wijnaldum to the Camp Nou. And then Liverpool need to bring in a replacement, because you look through the one thing I'd say about Liverpool as well, Marko Grujic is a player who has been kind of keeping under the radar for the last while. Went on loan to Hertha Berlin, but he's back at Liverpool, and it looks like Klopp is going to give him. He said he was going to give him pre-season to show that or prove his worth, that he deserved a place in the squad for this season. And from what I've read in the papers over the last couple of weeks, well, it's gone a bit quiet. So it looks like Klopp is happy enough to hang on to Grujic. So
is he good enough?
He's a player that, he's done well at Hertha Berlin, and they were willing to pay 20 million quid for him if he was up for sale this season. So I think as a backup player, he's definitely worth hanging on to. And Liverpool do have enough midfielders there to perhaps sort of make up for the loss of Wijnaldum going to Barcelona. And if Barcelona are willing to pay a decent transfer fee, like he's 31 now as well, so if they can get a decent transfer fee for him, why not let him go? And perhaps then bring in Alcantara. So, there's a lot of things that need to happen for all these moves to solid the place. But I think he's definitely a player, Wijnaldum. If I was a Liverpool supporter, he's an excellent player, and he would be a loss. But if you can get a decent transfer fee for him, bring in a player like Thiago Alcantara, I wouldn't be too upset. They
say that Chelsea haven't won any trophies, but they've certainly won this transfer window, and they may be in the process of throwing it all away, or at least undoing some of their good work, because, according to Calcio Mercato, Chelsea's France midfielder N'Golo Kante would be Inter Milan manager Antonio Conte's dream signing, but could cost up to £60 million. I'm seeing £60 million there, Steve-O, and I'm thinking to myself, you pay that for N'Golo Kante, and if you're Chelsea, you do not sell him for £60 million. This is a very clear-cut situation. Am I missing something?
N'Golo Kante is injury-prone now.
True.
He missed a lot of games last season and the season before. Chelsea had to, there was a lot of times where Frank Lampard had to change his team selections and was missing N'Golo Kante for big games. So if a team or a club is willing to pay £60 million for him now, I'd snap their hands off. I love N'Golo Kante. He's been one of my favourite players over the last couple of years. I thought he should have won Footballer of the Year the season that Leicester City won that title. I thought he was absolutely magnificent. He's won the World Cup. I love this guy. I love his attitude. I think he's such a nice fella. He's so committed to the club that he plays for, and he's definitely a player if he's fully fit. I definitely would not be selling. But the fact that he is injury prone now, and Chelsea do have players there that can slot in there and do his job, and as well they've got Billy Gilmour coming through now, a player who I know John Giles has spoken with great affection for over the last few weeks on OTB. So they've got players there that can...
It's not a situation where Billy Gilmour beside N'Golo Kante, you give him the greatest possible opportunity to flourish beside one of the great recent Premier League midfielders. Like, I get the fitness point. It is a good point. And if somebody's going to be crocked for the next little while, of course you take 60 million quid for them. My opinion is based on the fact that N'Golo Kante might be able to sort his issues out. He's still in his 20s, let us not forget.
Yeah, but it seems to be a lot of muscle issues, doesn't it? Hamstrings and calves and that kind of thing. And when a player at his age, you think he's 29 or 30 now, isn't he? So when you get to his age and you're having a lot of those recurring injuries, I think that's a big concern, So unless Chelsea can start, I don't know if they've done... I know Ryan Giggs, for instance, when he was having those kind of troubles at United, he started getting into yoga, and that definitely seemed to help him prolong his career. So maybe Chelsea are trying to do something like that. I haven't heard, but I would just be concerned that it's a lot of muscle injuries. It's stuff that would really hamper a player like him. His game is built on mobility, his speed around the pitch, and able to put out fires and block up holes in defences. So I just think it's a concern. I think if you can get that amount of money, and considering the amount of money that Chelsea has spent, if they can get £60 million for a player of 30 years of age, I would snap the hand off the club who are offering it.
We're finishing up this morning with an actual deal. 29-year-old James Rodriguez is a Blue. Everton snapping him up for £22 million. Is this a good move for Everton? It's not really a lot of money in today's market. Again, somebody in their 20s who might have another bit of the juice left to squeeze.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Eoin. He's going to sell a lot of damn jerseys. What a beautiful face that man has. He reminds me of Bohemian centre-half Rob Cornwall, who's a brilliant player, but also wheeled out to model every single jersey that they release. And by God, I tell you, it doesn't harm sales at all.
He doesn't come with the jersey, though. You can't get his face.
Definitely the most handsome player I think that's in the Premier League now. If we're going to do a ranking of beautiful players, he's going to come in at number one. But seriously, what a deal! I think this is a brilliant deal. I think Rodriguez. I think when he went to Real Madrid, there was so much pressure on him from the Bernabeu because of his transfer fee, because of what he'd done with Colombia. And some players maybe don't react to that very well. He did well when he went out and loaned to Bayern Munich. And look, to be honest, he didn't do too badly at Real Madrid. I think his 85 appearances I have there, 29 goals. It's not a bad return, and his assist rate was pretty good as well. So I think the other thing as well, the big thing for Rodriguez is he's going to give competition to one of, I think, the most underperforming players at Everton, Gylfi Sigurdsson. That man just frustrates me so much. Gylfi Sigurdsson, he's such a talented player, but I've been at Goodison Park, I've done games there, and my God, he would frustrate the hell out of you because, you know, the one thing Everton supporters, all they ask for from their players is that they give 100%. They like combative players that get stuck in and really get in the face of the opposition. That's one thing that Gylfi Sigurdsson doesn't do. He can tend to go sleep for games, 10, 20-minute spells. And he's such a talent. Like, we know what he can do, you know, regards to his creative play. So I think that's something Everton need badly, a good number 10 player, which James Rodriguez is. And I think if he can soak up the culture at Everton Football Club, and I'm sure Ancelotti will put that across to him, and I'm sure the other players there will, the likes of Seamus Coleman will do that, and they'll tell him exactly what the supporters want at Goodison Park. Now, obviously, there's not going to be any supporters there for a while, but I'm sure. I think this is a really good signing for as you mentioned, the amount of money they paid for. I think it's £20 million, €22 million. I think that's a really, really good deal. And bringing in Alan as well, who's going to be the more defensive midfielder behind him. I think this Everton squad is shaping up to look really good. And I think Ancelotti's going to have them up in the top 6 anyway, and maybe perhaps competing for it. They could be a dark horse for a top 4 spot.
Shane, what do you reckon?
Yeah, what was the famous headline? The name's Bond, James Rodriguez in the newspaper that time. So I hope some of the newspapers go with that. But I mean, Carlo Ancelotti is clearly a manager who loves this guy. It's the equivalent of Harry Redknapp and Nico Cranshaw. He signs him for every club. I think this is the 3rd time after Real Madrid and Bayern that they've been linked together. So it's an interesting one. And look, it's clearly the signing of the transfer window. It's the headline signing so far. And I think the smart one in this is that it's a 2-year deal with the option of a 3rd. You don't want to be stuck in a 5-year contract with a player like James Rodriguez if it does go tits up, a la Falcao or Alexis Sanchez. So at least they have the option to get rid of him if it does go wrong. But it feels so right.
Lads, great stuff. That is it for Deal or No Deal this morning.